So, like, I want to talk about why did God create? Let's postulate. We'd probably better not use the word God. Let's use the word original consciousness, and let's suppose that that there's an original consciousness that predates the universe.
Okay.
Okay, right. So then this original consciousness
Okay.
is existing, but presumably is the only consciousness around. I mean, as far as we know, let's not even. I guess we can't worry about that.
Not with these multiverses. Please don't even go there.
So then we want to know. So, what is the purpose to create? And I think it's pretty clear. Many people have said the same thing, that the purpose is joy. And so what would make this being joyful? What would be fulfilling? So I think it's like the difference between thinking of things in your head, like just imagining going through experiences, and then the actual experience. Going through the actual experience where you can't sort of dictate the outcome. You know, so I think that the original consciousness wanted to have these actual experiences. And in particular wanted to go out and tread in the puddle and play in the mud and have snail races and
snail races. Very slow competition.
But then of course a much deeper desire is the desire to relate to others, right? So I think this original consciousness then has a desire to create other beings, and so how do you accomplish that if you are everything, right?
A loaded question, Allison. Totally.
Well, I think if you are everything and you're like this infinite consciousness, the only way to create something that is other than you, so it's outside of just the realm of your imagination, is to focus in on and make something finite, something that's smaller than your infinite consciousness. So to tie your infinite consciousness into a finite realm, which would be like space and time, right? A 4-dimensional space-time or a 5-dimensional space-time. If you tie an infinite consciousness into that, then something different will emerge. And I don't think that the original consciousness could relate directly to that. In other words, only through our consciousness.
I have to be very basic.
Yeah.
I'm very basic type. So I know my original conscious would be my creative thought.
Yeah.
Like if I said in my head, like I like Celtic art, so if I said I would really like to combine Celtic art with a Morning Glory vine. So I'm thinking this in my head.
Yeah.
But actually, when I put it down on paper and in pencil and then do it in ink and then do it in colors and then finally get to the point where it's finished, I can relate to that as my creation, but it's not, let's see, I can relate to it as my creation, but it's never going to
it's not going to respond
create. Yeah, it's never. Yeah,
it's not going to be creative itself.
It's not going to be creative itself, although it is the object of my creativity.
Right.
But so in a way, we can understand that divine. What did you call it? The creative force? What did you say?
Divine consciousness.
The divine consciousness. Yes.
I don't think I use those words together, but anyway. It's fine. We'll go with that.
God, the other name for God.
Infinite consciousness.
Infinite consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the infinite consciousness can get some sort of joy if you create something that can't create itself, like it can't create. Like say a picture is not going to reproduce itself.
Yeah.
But a frog will reproduce itself.
Right.
And that's even more
that's
fun.
More joyful.
That's more fun. Because you get to see it not just once, but you get to see it multiply, and each time it multiplies, maybe is a little variation of something in it. And, And then the best would be if you created a living being that could actually relate to you.
Right.
Like a frog. I don't think a frog, I mean, speaking from my own frog experiences, of course, I don't think a frog really cares if I'm looking at him or not. But I care somehow that I'm not being looked at so much, but that I have a relationship with some higher being. Yeah. Like I don't think a frog would care.
Yeah.
If
Well, I guess that's the difference between humans and like,
Awesome difference.
I mean, I think there's sort of degrees as you go up through the higher mammals and so on. But I think that probably the human is the one with the greatest potential, and I don't think we're anywhere near our potential.
Well, we only use how much percentage of our brain, which is.
I heard that was a rumor, but still, I know that we're not near our potential.
Rumors are never very life-giving, are they?
Well, it may be true. I just
10% of our brain.
Yeah. So to me, then the design of the universe must be such that the original consciousness can create itself, but in differentiated form, right? So instead of being one original consciousness, now you've got 7 billion consciousnesses existing in a independent state. Because I mean, we are not dependent upon this original consciousness to make our decisions for us. We make our own decisions.
But how awesome it is if your decision to do something or your creation is in harmony with the original reason why you were created.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That would be awesome, but it's clearly not the case in most.
Well,
I mean,
I'm an idealist. You're the scientist, remember?
Oh, yeah.
I think it could work somehow.
I think that's the way that the world should be.
Yes.
And I think it's just because we don't understand that we have such a lot of problems. But I definitely think that the original intention was to create beings who will grow up to become like you.
Well, as a mom, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Actually, I want my kids to be better than me.
Yeah.
I don't want them to be me. I want them to have less hang-ups and more creativity and more success and more confidence and more everything.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the divine source's motivation to create people.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're designing a universe like that, then it sort of gives you, it explains how the universe is designed in a way. Because if you're creating something other than you, then you have to have this concept of space, right? You have to have a concept of space in order to design something other than you.
Yes, yes.
Different beings, a separated being. So even though the consciousness may be a single consciousness, still the physical body is separated. And so that's the origin of space. So then how about time? So then clearly this original consciousness wants to experience growth, right? The growth from the immaturity to maturity.
Right.
And so that's time. That's the basis for time. The difference between me as a baby and me as a teenager and me as an old lady. It's time.
So why do they say, I mean, I've heard many times explained in the spiritual world or in the invisible world, there is no time and space. So you could go from...
Oh, no, it's definitely space. And I've heard this time.
Time and space? Well, I thought there wasn't. One day
well,
is 1,000 years.
But I think it's a different kind of time. It's more like a cyclical time. So
that's because you're a scientist.
Yeah. And because if you solve the equations for a Big Bang, you get a second solution, which is an imaginary cyclical time. But also
there
because...
you go.
Yeah, there you go.
I knew that.
So, I mean, I think there is some measure of something called time. I mean, I think it's somewhat timeless also. Anyway, I mean, I think that's something that we'll know about.
Timeless time.
Yeah.
Now there's something to ponder.
Yeah. So, anyway, I think a lot of people are starting to think about this these days. Like, we've changed our minds about the nature of consciousness. Not
and
completely.
About religion.
Religion, we've let go. Yeah.
Well, theoretically.
It's turned into spirituality.
Yes. Spirituality is more amenable to harmony and peace than religion is.
Well, I think the one dimension that we don't really hear very much about is the dimension of spiritual growth. Like...
Right.
Yeah, because...
we hear about physical growth a lot, right? We hear about, are you 21? Can you drink yet? My kid's age. So...
But spiritual growth, I mean, I don't think you can say anything about a religion unless you recognize that some people are in, say, a very low-level stage of spiritual growth, of spiritual maturity. So to them, they've never experienced being loved, maybe, or they're still very young, and everything seems very chaotic.
Right.
And
Because when you're a child, you want everything to be your way.
well, basically, also your parents should be able to get you through that stage, but many people are abused by their parents or just abandoned.
And many parents have no clue about spiritual growth. They have no clue about a spiritual life. So how are they going to raise their children to be good people if they're just depending on the culture around them?
So a person in that stage is going to be very different as a member of a religious community than a person, say, in the next stage, which is more like when you find order through the rules.
Right.
Right. So if you're good, then you can go to heaven. If you're bad, then you won't. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you can do this, you can't do that, like the commandments and so on. So, and people cling on to that because it gives them some sort of order in life, some framework to live by. It's true also.
And according to religious text, it brings you salvation or brings you to the point where you can become more godlike or closer to God if you follow the rules.
Right. But I think, especially like in the West, we've been through a period of really questioning the rules. And I don't think that's going backwards. That is like in a way that's a higher stage of growth. It can represent, backsliding.
No, but when you think about your own kids, when is the time you have the hardest time with them? Is when they're teenagers, when they're trying to understand what it is of your life that they want to carry forward.
Yeah.
And that's the same with spiritual growth. I'm sure it parallels.
Yeah, and then I think you get beyond like denominationalism or this religion or that religion, and you get to a point where you realize, like, you can accept every religion as a desire to grow spiritually.
But the problem therein lies. My religion's better than your religion.
Well, it's only the case if you because you see you'd only think like that if you were still in sort of a earlier stage of spiritual growth.
I know, but if you're in a more advanced stage of spiritual growth and the world around you is in a mediocre stage of spiritual growth, saying that their religion is somehow more connected to God or they're saved through that religion, then it would create discourse, wouldn't it? It would.
Well, I mean, we can see it. It's chaos everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Right now, there's chaos, a load of chaos. But I don't think you can judge a religion, a whole religion.
We're not talking about religion.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We are.
You can't judge a religion by the people in it who are very immature, I think.
Well, like you said, everybody's on a stage on their own growth pattern, and maturity lies.
Yeah,
but as the end. It's not the end, though.
Yeah, I mean, there was certainly. I think though it does behoove the more mature people that they have to do something to help people who are really struggling. I mean, you can't accept people doing crazy things in the name of religion.
Well, when you're growing up, though, when you're growing in your understanding, you could very easily just abandon all thoughts of religion because the religious people are wacko. I mean, you could say that. I mean, and then where's the opportunity for spiritual growth?
Yeah.
It would come through music, through media, through relationships with people, through talking with wise people.
Yeah. Through the internet?
Yeah, the internet. Awesome. I do believe the internet was created simply to raise the consciousness of people.
Very good.
I do.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.